You're sitting there reliving every word they said, every insult, every bit of criticism. It plays on a loop, doesn't it? You remember how they dissected you, questioned everything, your choices, your dreams, even your very identity. They didn't stop, did they? They chipped away at you, piece by piece, so subtly that you didn't even realize what was happening until one day you stood there, questioning if they were right. Were you good enough? Were you enough? But let me tell you something that was never about you, Dot. Their words, their criticisms, the way they tore into you, none of it was about who you are. It was always about who they are. Their words were a reflection of their own fears, their own insecurities. They were afraid of being exposed for what they really are, flawed, weak and afraid. Your strength made them uncomfortable, your intelligence threatened them, and your kindness confused them. So they did what insecure people do, they projected. They tried to make you carry the weight of their shame, so they wouldn't have to carry it themselves. But even in your darkest moments, something inside you knew the truth. Their words, their manipulation, their so-called love, twisted and weaponized, never really defined you. They wanted you to believe it did, though. Oh, they threw everything they had at you: lies, guilt, emotional manipulation, but no matter how hard they tried to shrink you, something inside refused to break. That's why you're still standing right here, right now, breathing, surviving, living. You saw through it eventually. Maybe not immediately, maybe it took long nights of doubt, tears, and confusion, but you saw it. You saw through the lies, the games, and the smoke they tried to hide behind. And now they're left with nothing but the wreckage of their own mess, while you're standing tall, free. But let's be real, just because you saw through their manipulation doesn't mean it didn't hurt. Just because you knew, deep down, that their words weren't the truth doesn't mean the scars aren't there. Those emotional scars, the kind no one else can see, run deep. They creep into your thoughts, into how you see yourself, and they whisper lies about your worth. But here's the thing, those scars, they're not signs of weakness. They're proof of your resilience. They're proof that you endured everything they threw at you and you didn't break. You didn't fold under the weight of their insecurities. You didn't let their flaws become your identity. No, you took every wound, every insult, every betrayal, and you used it as fuel. You turned their attempts to destroy you into the very power that's now lifting you higher. See, people like them can't stand their own reflection. They can't face their own flaws, their own fears, their own emptiness. So what do? They look for someone to blame, someone to offload their pain onto. And that person was you. You were the easy target, the one who cared enough to listen, who loved enough to forgive, who tried to see the good in them, even when they didn't deserve it. They mistook your kindness for weakness, your empathy for naivety. But let me tell you something, they were wrong. Kindness is not weakness. Compassion is not a flaw. What you have is something they'll never understand, something they could never possess: the ability to love even when it's hard, to forgive even when it's not deserved. And that scared the hell out of them, because they knew deep down they could never rise above their own bitterness the way you did. So they tried to drag you down to their level. Misery loves company, after all. They wanted you to doubt yourself the way they doubt themselves. They wanted you to feel small because that's how they feel every day, trapped in their own insecurities. But you were too smart, too strong, too damn resilient to fall for it. And now they're the ones left with nothing. They lost the best thing they ever had, and they know it. When they criticized you, when they blamed you, they thought they were winning. They thought they had control. But what they didn't realize is that every insult, every lie, every manipulation was just exposing their own chaos. They weren't breaking you, they were exposing themselves. And now they're left to face the consequences of their own actions, while you've moved on. You've risen above it all. You're stronger, wiser, and completely untouchable. The game they played, it's over. And they lost. They thought they could control you, manipulate you, keep you trapped in their web. But every time they tried to break you, they only sharpened your edge. Every attempt to tear you down only made you more aware of your own power. And now that you've seen through their lies, there's no going back. The strings they tried to pull, you cut them. The chains they wrapped around you, you shattered them. And now they're left with nothing but their own regrets, while you stand unshaken and free. But let's not sugarcoat it. Walking away from someone who tried to control you, who used words as weapons, isn't easy. It takes courage. It takes strength most people will never reach. But you did it. You found that strength within yourself. And now, here you are standing on the other side of the storm, looking back at how far you've come. And them? They're still trapped, still hiding behind their masks, still convincing themselves they were right. But deep down, they know the truth. They know they lost something real, something irreplaceable. And that's the beauty of it. You don't have to do a thing. You don't have to seek revenge. You don't have to prove anything to them. Their own words, their own actions. That's their punishment. They have to live with the knowledge that they were the problem all along. The very things they criticized in you were the things they feared most in themselves. So where does that leave you? It leaves you free from their mind games, their manipulation, their toxic influence. You don't need their validation. You never did. Everything you needed was already within you: the strength, the intelligence, the compassion. They tried to convince you that you weren't enough, but the truth, you were always too much for them to handle. And that's not your problem, that's theirs. Now as you move forward, you do so with your head held high, knowing exactly who you are and what you're worth. You've learned that their criticism was never about you, it was always about them. And now that you're free from their influence, you can finally see it for what it was. You were never the problem. You were always the solution, and now you get to live your life on your terms. No more toxic chains, no more manipulation, just freedom. And that's the sweetest victory of all. Because here's the truth: they'll keep replaying the past, stuck in a loop of what ifs and should haves, but not you. No, you've stepped out of their cycle. You're no longer caught in the web of their manipulation. No longer weighed down by the poison they tried to drip into your soul. They'll search for someone else to bear the burden of their brokenness, but deep down, they'll know they lost the one person who saw them for what they were, and still tried to love them through it. They lost the person who showed them compassion when they deserved none, who forgave them when they weren't even sorry. And that's the kind of loss that lingers. That's a loss they'll never outrun. But you're done carrying what was never yours to carry. They'll pretend like it doesn't bother them. Oh, they'll put on the same old mask: indifference, arrogance, or maybe even blame, but behind that facade, there's emptiness, there's fear. They feel the absence of what you brought to their life. And it haunts them. Not because they miss you, but because they know they can't find someone else like you. Someone who could see through their cracks and not flinch. Someone who gave them the love they never had the courage to give themselves. That kind of loss eats away at a person, slowly, from the inside out. And no matter how many lies they tell themselves to ease the sting, that truth will always sit quietly in the back of their mind: you were the best thing that ever happened to them. And they threw it away. But you've shed their weight. Every insult, every moment of doubt they planted in your mind, you've burned it all down and risen from the ashes. You've taken every wound they gave you and turned it into wisdom. You've learned that you define your worth, not their fleeting opinions. You've realized that they tried to break you because they could never stand next to someone so whole. And the beauty of it all? You don't even need to explain yourself to anyone. You don't need to make them see the truth, because they already know it. And they'll have to live with that forever. Meanwhile, you've stepped into a new kind of freedom. The kind that tastes like peace with who you are, peace with where you've been, and peace with when then, and peace with who they'll never become. No more second-guessing yourself, no more looking for closure that was never theirs to give. You've closed that door. And you've locked it from the inside. The past, it stays behind you. And the best part, you don't owe anyone an explanation for how far you've come. You don't owe anyone an apology for choosing yourself. You've learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from someone who keeps setting you on fire just to feel warm. And make no mistake, your silence, it's louder than any argument. Your absence will be felt. They'll scroll through old messages, replay old conversations, trying to convince themselves that they were in control. But it'll hit them eventually. You've left. And you're not coming back. The one person who truly saw them, truly understood them, has outgrown them. And that kind of absence leaves a scar. It leaves them standing alone with the very thing they tried to run from all along themselves. But here's the thing about scars: they aren't just reminders of what hurt you, they're proof of what didn't destroy you. They're the map of battles fought and won, etched across your heart. a testament to your survival. Every scar, every painful memory, they are not burdens. They are badges. They are the quiet, undeniable proof that you are unbreakable. That despite everything they did, despite every attempt to make you question your worth, you chose to rise, you chose to fight for yourself. Even when it would have been easier to stay small, to let their words define you. And now, that strength is yours forever. They'll watch from the sidelines as you build a life they never thought you could. A life filled with joy, with love, with purpose, one that no longer carries the shadows of their criticism. They'll wonder how you did it. They'll wonder why their words, their lies, their manipulation couldn't break you. And the answer will eat away at them. Piece by piece, you never needed them. You never needed their approval, their validation, or their acceptance. They were just chapters in your story, not the ending. And now that story is yours to write, on your terms, with your heart wide open and your head held high. And here's the final truth: freedom isn't just walking away from them. It's realizing you were free all along. It's recognizing that no one ever had the power to define you but you. They tried to take that power, tried to twist your narrative. But they failed. Because the person they tried to break, that person became unstoppable, and now as you move forward, you do so without the weight of their judgment, without the need for their approval, and without the fear of their rejection. So let them sit with the consequences of their actions. Let them wrestle with the emptiness they tried to fill by tearing you down. Let them face the reflection they spent so long avoiding. Because you're done, you're free, and there's no going back. Not to them, not to the doubts they planted, not to the smallness they tried to trap you in. From here on out, you walk forward with clarity, with power, and with the unwavering knowledge that you are more than enough. You always were. And now, you finally know it too.